Welcome back, anime fans, to Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast. I'm your host, John, and with me is the co-host, Bridget.
Hey, everyone.
And this is part 2 of our Halloween special.
Whoa.
This week we are covering Kiki's delivery service.
The cute side of Halloween.
But before we get into it, as we do every week, we're going to do some anime news.
We are less than 4 days away from the release date of the live-action film Full Metal Alchemist, which has been highly anticipated. They even have an official countdown on their website down to the very second. But those who attended the premiere in Tokyo a couple weeks ago already started posting some reviews on it, and they look kind of mixed. We're still going to remain hopeful. We want to see it for ourselves. And then we're probably going to do a bonus episode on it after it's released. So we're looking forward
big
to that.
shoes to fill.
I know, yeah. Everyone loves this anime franchise. And it's a big project. You know, everyone's going to have very high expectations for it. So, you know, we're hoping that they do the best they can. And, I'm sure it'll still be entertaining, at the very least. But we'll see.
All right, up next is our word of the week.
Word of the week. So, appropriate. We chose the word witch, which is
Majo.
So that is witch.
All right, let's get into it. So Kiki's Delivery Service is a 1989 fantasy anime produced by Studio Ghibli and written, produced, and directed by Hayao Miyazaki.
Yeah.
As an adaptation of the 1985 novel of the same name by Aiko Kadono. The film tells the story of a young witch, Kiki, who moves to a new town and uses her ability to fly to earn a living. As she sets out on her own, she begins to realize just how big the world is. And you come to understand what it's like for a witch growing up.
Which is cute and adorable.
So, the movie sort of follows Kiki's transition into adulthood. At the age of 13, every witch is supposed to leave home for a year. They're going to determine their skill that they're going to use to sort of help society. What's great about this movie, other than the fact that it's a Studio Ghibli movie, because it's beautiful, it's got great music.
They're
it's
amazing.
It's fun, it's epic, and it's just straight up enjoyable.
It's just magical and
it's
beautiful.
Magical, exactly. And I totally forgot what I was going to say leading up to that. It's interesting how this world that they created is completely okay with witches. Where something like in other media, witches always come across as something dark or something to be afraid of. And although there's definitely some fear from like regular people throughout the movie, but it's more of a fear of not understanding, not a fear of like what the witches are capable of. Now granted, Kiki's 13, so she's a young kid. She tries to do everything by the book.
She's very pure.
Needs to get out of
very innocent.
A traffic ticket or for some reason,
But no, that's a really good point, because if you think about everything else we know that has witches in it, like the famous Harry Potter franchise, for instance, it has to remain a secret. It's always a secret. It's not something public, knowledge is the world that is allowed to know, because it could be dangerous. And then you have our own American history where witches, when people believed they were witches, they would burn them, at a stake, like they were bad. They were something that was feared, and people always fear the unknown, as you put it. So I feel like I can't really recall any other story where it was just part of everyday society. They were saying it's just a tradition. When the witch reaches the age of 13, they have to go out into the world and they pick their own town. Each town can get one witch. They're kind of almost like a public service almost.
Yeah.
You go to them for everyday needs.
They try to make a living out of their abilities.
Yeah, it's a job. It's a lifestyle as well. But it's something that people, when they see a witch, they're amazed and they're in awe. There was no one that showed the sign of fear. Everyone's mouths just dropped.
Yeah, it also doesn't...
And admired her.
It seems like witches are very scarce.
Yes, very rare. You saw a lot of people in the particular town that it took place in, the port city of Kuriko. They were saying, wow, my great-grandmother had told stories about these witches, and it was just something that they don't spread very far. There's not a lot of them, but everyone was just fascinated by her. There was no fear whatsoever, which is just so different and refreshing from everything else we've seen.
Now, one thing Studio Ghibli does really well is it creates these very strong female characters.
Yes.
One thing I really like about Kiki is the fact that when you compare it to characters from other Studio Ghibli movies, like Howl's Moving Castle,
Spirited Away.
Spirited Away. What was the other one we just watched? Princess Mononoke. Well, those characters they're already sort of set in their style. Like, they're already set in their ways, and they're essentially adult versions of themselves, right?
Yeah, they're not coming of age.
Even if they're young characters, they're very confident in their self and what their purpose is in life. What's great about Kiki is the fact that she's not. She's still young at heart. Like, she wants to be an adult. She wants to be responsible. But she's also, there are signs when she's clearly a kid still. And, like, she gets upset over what others may see as, like, dumb little things. This boy introduces himself to her, Tombo, and, like, she doesn't think it was the proper way to do it, so she kind of brushes him off. And it's just, it's a fun sort of journey to watch Kiki develop.
There really is it's a very childish way for a girl to react to a boy trying to introduce himself as someone that she probably had a crush on.
There are a couple main characters throughout this movie. You have Tombo, who is the boy very interested in Kiki. He sort of sees her as this wonder. He's a great character. The most amazing thing he's ever seen in his life. He's obsessed with aviation and flying.
He even has
an
aviation
this
club.
Person who just comes out of nowhere, a witch, no less, flying on a broomstick. And he's just amazed by her.
Yeah, that's like his dream girl right there, a girl that flies.
Then you have other characters like Ursula. She is an artist that Kiki sort of runs into.
Living out in the woods.
And they become sort of friends. And then lastly, you have Osano, who is this baker.
Yeah, she's the one who runs the bakery.
She owns her own shop. And she takes Kiki in when Kiki arrives in the new town. She offers her a place to live for, working at the bakery, and allows Kiki to sort of set up her own shop, Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah, so cute.
Kiki's job, she figures she's good at flying, let's make a delivery service out of it. So she starts taking on these jobs, and things don't always go exactly as planned, but ultimately she manages to make a living for the most part.
And I know at first Gigi, her cat, was reluctant to even settle there because the port town is a really big place, and they came from like a very small village where everyone's friends with everybody, and she was kind of their star child there. Everyone loved her, and now she's in this huge port city where people aren't friendly with each other all the time. They're kind of, they're busy with their own lives. They're very self-involved, which is, I'm sure we get that when we go to our own city. Like, everyone just hustle bustle. Kind of discouraging at first because people didn't really show her a lot of kindness until she ran into Osano and Tombo.
Going into sort of like a big city, she doesn't really have any friends. She's not very confident in herself, and this leads to sort of some issues throughout the movie. So apparently a witch's power lies in their confidence in themselves.
Yes.
She begins to lose her ability to fly, and she also loses the ability to speak to her cat Gigi.
That would break my heart.
She has trouble sort of getting that back. What she eventually learns from Ursula is that she kind of has writer's block. She doesn't know why she's doing it. What's her purpose for being a witch? What's her purpose for doing her delivery service?
Like, you start to really understand like the source of her power, and how when they compared her drive as an artist to Kiki's power as a witch, and like you said, it really is writer's block. It's when you lose focus and you're not sure who you are. It's your sense of self that really drives that force. Before that, I don't think Kiki really had any idea where her magic came from. She never really, it's really part of her discovery of herself. Like, she doesn't really know who she is yet, as most 13-year-olds don't. And part of her discovery is discovering her magic as well.
I think it's an interesting topic. You can't always rely on natural ability. Like, the movie's about perseverance, and you need to push through, and you need to learn new skills, because one day you may not be able to fly on your broomstick, and
or talk to your cat.
This throws Kiki almost into like a mild depression, because she just doesn't understand how to live without these powers. So this was one of the first movies, it may have been the first movie in collaboration with Disney. And after doing a little research, apparently the Japanese and American versions differ. Some slight things, some major things. Some of the major changes you can notice are the musical score, which I guess Disney changed. Gigi's personality, apparently shown as more cynical and sarcastic in the English version, which I definitely had complaints about.
Really? I thought he was a little too...
I would punch this cat in the face.
No, I think he was a little too cynical, a little too obnoxious about it, I guess. But I do think his character reminded me of Calcifer in House Moving Castle, where he was always kind of the complainer and the whiner a little bit, but it was still kind of funny for Calcifer to I feel like he was a comical character, but Gigi was just a little too much of a complainer, but I still enjoyed the character.
Yeah, compared to the Japanese version where he's a little more cautious and less cynical.
Yes.
It's an interesting stylized change.
I think he was supposed to be like the voice of reason a little bit. Like, it was Gigi that was saying, maybe we should find a smaller town, another town where people are nice. Or maybe, he always had that, maybe he was her voice of doubt as well, because in a way, like, his voice was part of her powers. So
one of the other major changes is Kiki loses her ability to communicate with Gigi permanently in the Japanese version. Mm-hmm. And Miyazaki has said that Gigi is sort of the immature side of Kiki. And it implies that Kiki is growing up by the end of the Japanese version, so she no longer can talk with him. In the American version, they sort of tie her ability to talk with him with her confidence in herself.
Yeah.
And now, granted, I should preface this with there are multiple versions in English, and later versions sort of go back to more of an original Japanese feel.
Yeah.
I don't think they changed
what Miyazaki's
they kept some of the more of the original music. Yes, they
yeah. I mean, but both versions I think are great. Like, I really like that they tie in her ability to talk with her cat with her coming of age. And you see that, I've seen that in other movies, like the Narnia franchise and book series, where when the children came of age, they couldn't go to Narnia anymore. The world was cut off to adults. It was just part of becoming an adult and losing that childhood innocence. That you're maybe, in a way, innocence and childhood is tied in with an open mind and being able to see things that other, adults can't see. I think that's really a strong plot in the story. I really like that. But I also really do like the American version that we watched, where it's part of her self-confidence and understanding who she is. I think they're both strong messages. I think they both work.
You get to see 3 witches in total. The mom, Kiki, I should say Kiki's mom, Kiki, and this random witch that Kiki sort of bumps into on her way to this new town. And this other witch, she's finishing her year, where Kiki's just beginning. She has the ability to fortune tell, and like she's made a living on it. She's very confident, but very stuck up in her own way. You don't really get like a whole lot of magic. So you get Kiki's ability to fly, which is kind of her thing. Her mom's ability with potions, although the mom can fly. You see it for a scene, though. You see it only for a few, like 1 or 2 scenes. The potions.
So really, as a viewer, you're only...
Truth be so, though, those are the 2 things I would want to do in a magical community. Like, if I were ever part of the Harry Potter world, like, I would just want to fly, and I would want to make potions. That would be my thing.
Potions.
I would always be about the potions. I would be a potions master.
I think I would be Transfiguration, where you can transform
have, like, a bandolier of potions, and others. And I'd just be like...
No, I would be like Professor Trelawney. I would totally be...
Trelawney, I think it's...
Is that the professor I'm trying to think of? No, McGonagall. I'm trying to be McGonagall. Like, being able to change myself into a cat.
Of course. Naturally.
That would be the epic.
Why do we even start? I shouldn't have brought it up. One of the things I wanted to bring up is Kiki's look.
Yes.
So Kiki has this very sort of plain,
like dark purple dress.
She has short, dark hair, maybe down to her chin. She wears this dark dress that was once her mom's.
Yeah,
and that's essentially the only. She hates it, and it's the only clothing she wears.
I'm sure she washes it.
And the one thing you notice in this is Kiki's big red bow. She has this giant red bow on her head. Something you wouldn't like necessarily relate to a witch. Like you think of a witch, what's the first thing you think of? A pointy nose and a big hat.
Yeah, no hats here.
And it's very different sort of take on what a witch is and what a witch looks like.
And even though we don't really see a lot of other witches, like the mom does mention in the beginning, this is the dress that I wore when I turned 13 and went out on my own. It's a very traditional young witch outfit. So
and you see her struggle with tradition, as well as like sort of being her own person.
Because, like, she's comparing herself to these other girls in this big town. What are these other girls wearing? They're wearing these elaborate frilly dresses with bright pastel colors. They're wearing big sun hats. And they're seeing them all, like, giggling like little girls and sitting on the back of, like, boys' bikes. And she's just like, I wish I could look like that. Like, I wish I could have one of those pretty dresses. And, it really
she just wants
hinders
to be,
her.
In part, she just wants to be a kid. That is one of the reasons why she loses her ability, because she's just like, I don't want to be an adult at times,
Yeah. I think that it's partly her growing up and not being ready for it, but also her self-confidence and her self-identity. Like, she sees herself and she looks plain. She sees an ugly dress in her eyes. And then she's surrounded by all these girls that, again, frilly, pretty dresses. And it really, it helps. It doesn't help with her journey. It makes her struggle even more because she's comparing herself to other people.
But she has a good heart. And you see this throughout her delivery services, and she meets these random characters who she's happy to have met. And it's classic Miyazaki.
His world, like, I would love to see inside his mind, like, the worlds that he conjures up and shares with us are just, they're always so magical. Like, everything about them, the music and the scenery. And speaking of the scenery, we recently went overseas and we saw parts of Europe, and this port town, it looks like something out of Europe. It doesn't look like it takes place in Japan. And we also noted that the character animation, the people also didn't look Asian. They didn't really look like anything.
That's
They're
one
very,
of the things I commend Miyazaki
I think neutral.
on.
Yeah, very
all the
neutral.
characters kind of look neutral.
They could be anywhere, but this particular village, like the architecture and the scenery, it just looked very European, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, classic Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Just everything looks amazing. And you could look anywhere on the screen and you're going to see something different and something beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Like you were saying earlier, where you really don't see a lot of other magic in this movie other than what Kiki does. We kind of go on the journey with her because we have nothing else to compare it to. So we're learning about magic as she is. We're learning about this new world as she is. So it's really nice to kind of go through this movie and this world and learn as she learns.
Yeah, I was saying to something in Bridge the other day how I really wish somehow all the Miyazaki movies were in the same universe and they somehow tied together, even if it was like
Disney does that.
Hundreds of years, in the future compared to like the previous movie. I just thought it'd be really cool. Because all the characters look very similar. It's a very Miyazaki thing. Like you could see a Miyazaki character and immediately know that's Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli. They have a very distinct look, and I thought it would just be really cool.
That would be cool if they
were
somehow
that's
all
wishful
the same.
thinking.
I know. They never really intended it that way, but that would be pretty awesome. There's one other thing that I want to mention is that, like you were saying, how Kiki has a good heart, and I think that is an understatement. Like, there is this one scene where she was doing a delivery, and there was an older woman. She had to pick up a package and bring it to her granddaughter's birthday. She had to pick up a baked dish, and when she gets there, the oven's not working. So she offers to not only wait, even though she's gonna probably miss her party because of it. She offers to get the other older oven started. Then while she's waiting for it to heat up, she offers to fix a light bulb to help her around the house. So, and it makes me think, like, if I were in her shoes, would I wait? How far would I go? Would I offer to go around her house and start fixing all these things that an old lady can't do? Like, would a person do that?
Should be told, as a kid, I probably would.
Right.
As an adult, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, so I feel like that purity, like, I wish that we all kept it as we came of age. And I hope that the character, as she grows up, I hope she keeps that innocence and that good heart. But I feel like a lot of us lose some of that. And I think most adults would not wait, or if they waited, be like, you know what, I have a few minutes, I can wait. But once you see the stove is not working, would you help her get the fire started under her old stove? Would you go around and start fixing things in her house? Like, probably not. I don't think most people would do that. I think that watching this movie, you also learn from Kiki. And I hope that people take a little bit of that with them.
So, guys, questions for you. Let's see. I'm going to delete that.
Stop saying that all the time. My God.
If you were a witch, what would your specialty be? Would you be a fortune teller? Would you be a potions master? Would you be a flight expert? I don't know what else there is sort of in this world. Transfiguration. Sure, why not?
I would do that. And fly. I mean, obviously everyone flies, but...
What would your specialty be? Let us know. You can find this anime? No idea. You gotta buy it.
You know what? I feel like these...
All the Miyazaki movies should be owned.
They're not... that's just it. Yeah, they're not easy to find on these streaming services, because none of them are really new. They are all famous and highly revered. So, I mean, we actually have them on DVD. They sell most of the Studio Ghibli collection like on one DVD set. It was easy to find online, and they're really inexpensive to buy. So, I mean, if you love any one of these Studio Ghibli movies, just buy the set, because they are all magical
and they're
and
timeless.
amazing.
Like, this is a 1989 film, and it's still great.
Yeah, they age very well. Like, there's something that you can always watch. And honestly, like, I think this movie is very appropriate for our second Halloween special, because I know people that are not into scary movies, and this is one of the movies that they made a tradition out of watching every Halloween. So I recommend that for anime fans, make this your Halloween tradition. Watch this every year. It is perfect for it.
This week's Cosplay Corner, check out at Looks with Audrey. It's LOOKSWITHADRI, and she is dressed as Kiki, and she looks fantastic.
Kiki. We actually saw a couple Kikis at Comic-Con this year in New York City. Yeah, the big red bow gave it away, but I definitely ran up to a couple of them. I was like, I love your costume. Great job.
And next week, we'll be talking about Showbits.
Showbits!
Which we have started, and we need to get back to.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it. That was one of my first animes. So a long time ago, and I love rewatching it. That's one thing that this podcast lets me do, is watch some of those old classics that, there's always so many things coming out, you don't think to go back to the old ones. And this was a great one, so I love rewatching this one. But don't forget, you can email us at gitcanime@gmail.com. And we're always on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you just look for GITC Anime. We have some exclusive content on our Patreon page, so if you're interested, go to GITC Anime on Patreon, and we have our first exclusive Patreon bonus episode up, and we're going to have another coming up soon, so go check us out.
And guys, rate and review us on iTunes. I'm not sure if you can do that on SoundCloud, but we would really appreciate it. Even if you want to just give us some pointers, email us some pointers on how we can make the podcast better, because that is ultimately our goal.
Yeah, we are here for you guys.
We want to keep this going for a long time to come. So thank you to our patrons, and thank you to Anthony for our theme song. You can check him out at What's Your Fortune. Look for that on iTunes.
Yeah.
Let me signal you.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.